and then circle around the number, holy cow, if they're just numbers on their own. And I always include the sign that's in front, like this -5, now it's -5. So if we're going to add or subtract first, I'm going to look at what I can get rid of. So I can't get rid of 52 because I already said I have to keep something on either side of the equal sign. I have to keep it balanced. If I get rid of 52, there's nothing left over there. I've messed up. I got the problem wrong. I can't move this 3x. It's my only triangle. I don't have a variable over here that I could combine it with. So the only thing I could possibly even move is this -5. And to move it, I have to do the opposite operation. So since it's -5 in the problem, I'm going to do +5 to get rid of it. And then add it to the other side. So 52 plus 5 is 57. And then bring down the other part of your problem, which brings us to step 2. So on this step, I've got to multiply or divide. So looking at my problem, I have my variable, which is the goal. I want to get that by itself. I want to see what that is. Then I have my numbers. So this operation right here, since that's multiplication, I want to do the opposite to get that x by itself. So the opposite would be to divide by 3, divide by 3. So it cancels out on one side, and then 57 divided by 3 gives me 19. If you're ever unsure, you can always check your answers, especially if we're taking a test on the STAR test. This is a good method to get used to. Plug in those numbers. You can plug in the number you get for 19, or for your x. So if you plug that in, solve for that, and you get 52, then you've done it correctly. That works for multiple choice questions. If you are given 4 different answers and you are really stumped, you can always plug those in and see which one is correct. On the back, example 1, we've got -18 equals -9m plus 27. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to circle my numbers, triangle around my variables, and I've got to add or subtract first. So again, this guy I can't move, this guy I can't move, so we're looking at this guy. So add or subtract, the opposite operation of what's going on in there would be subtract. Since it's plus 27, to get rid of it, subtract 27. So -18 minus 27 gives me -45. And I want to bring down this -9m because that's going to be my step 2. So -45 equals -9m. And you always want to rewrite it just in case you don't want to lose anything that's in your problem. So my last step, if this is multiplication, then the opposite would be to divide. So divide by -9 on both sides. Again, like I said earlier, the one that's on top goes in your calculator first. So -45 divided by -9. And we get 5. And then to check yourself, you can plug that number in for m and make sure you get -18. On example 2, so it starts up here with minus negative, and so remember we cancel those out, turns into a plus sign, which is what's written down here. So 2.4 plus 8 equals 18.8. So add or subtract first. So again, I can't get rid of the 2.4p, it's my only variable. Can't get rid of this because then that would be ruined. My whole equation would be ruined. So I'm going to say -8, so that can cancel this guy out. Then I get 10.8 and bring that 2.4p down. Now your last step. So I add or subtracted first. My second step, I have to either multiply or divide. So since this is multiplication, I'm going to divide by 2.4. So 10.8 divided by 2.4. And we get 4.5. Again, you can always check your answer. Plug in for P. Okay, down at the bottom, example 1, 22 equals negative 3.5x minus 8. So the only thing I can move is this minus 8, and to do that I'm going to do the opposite, so plus 8, that gives me 30, and then bring down the rest of my problem, negative 3.5x. And so now, just like a one-step equation, I'm going to divide and divide. So 30 divided by negative 3.5. So x is going to equal negative 8.57. On number 2, it's a little bit different. We've got our numbers and our variables. So don't let the fraction or division freak you out right now. We're going to start the same, add or subtract first. So I got to get rid of this 2. So I'm going to subtract them. Since there's no sign in front, that tells me it's positive. So the opposite would be negative or to subtract. So minus 2. So 6 minus 2 is 4. And then I want to bring this whole triangle down. So a divided by 6. So a divided by 6, since it's division, the opposite would be to multiply. So I'm going to multiply on both sides. So 6 times 4 is 24, and so a equals 24. Now number 3, we've got 8 minus 2e equals 18. So the 8, since there's no sign in front, that tells me it's positive. So what's the opposite of positive? A negative or a minus. So that can cancel this one out. And that gives me 10 on this side, and I'm going to bring the whole triangle down. So that includes this negative here. So negative 2e. And now my last step, since this is multiplication, would be to divide, because I'm trying to get e by itself. So e equals negative 5. Last one on the first column, triangle, circle, circle. So the only thing I can move is this 41.4, and since it has a plus sign in front of it, I want to do the opposite to cancel it out. So subtract. And so in your calculator, remember this goes in first. So negative 18.1, don't forget your negative, minus 41.4. Not minus negative, just minus. And that gives us 59.5. Bring the other half of your problem down. So 8.5h equals 59.5. So since this is multiplication, I'm going to divide and divide. And that was a negative, and I forgot to put that there. Negative 59. So divided by 8.5. And we get negative 7. Okay, on the last side, 8 minus 5b, but I'm going to combine, when I do my triangle over that variable, I want everything that's in front of it. And then negative 7. So again, this 8 is positive, since it doesn't have a sign in front. So the opposite would be a negative, or to subtract. So negative 7 minus 8 is negative 15. And then bring down your whole triangle, negative sign included. So then your last step, since that's multiplication, is to divide by negative 5 on both sides. And so b would be a positive 3. On number 4, since 4 doesn't have a sign in front, that just tells me it's positive. So the opposite would be to subtract it. So then 0 minus 4 gives me negative 4. These guys are canceled, and my whole triangle gets brought down. So negative v divided by 5 equals negative 4. So since this is division, v divided by 5, I want to multiply. So I have to do the opposite. And since there's a negative in front, I'm going to take that with the 5, because I don't want to forget that. I don't want to exclude that. Even if you did leave it, say we left that negative v and we just multiplied by 5 on either side, that would give me negative v equals negative 20. So then a positive v would have to equal a positive 20, okay? Or you can go ahead in your problem and multiply by negative 5. So either way, you should get the same answer. Negative v equals negative 20, which turns into positive v equals positive 20. Then last two, we've got negative 3t plus 4 equals 19. The only thing I can move is this plus 4. And so the opposite of plus 4 would be minus 4. So 19 minus 4 is 15. And then bring down that whole triangle. So negative 3t. And so then our last step, since we already added and subtracted, would be to divide. So divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, so t equals negative 5. And number 8, the doozy, negative 1/3 q, minus 7 equals negative 3. So the only thing I can get rid of is this minus 7. So the opposite would be plus 7. And so I get 4. And then I'm going to bring this whole thing down. So negative 1/3 q equals 4. So since my last operation is multiplication, there's two ways I can do this. I can, since it's multiplication, I can go ahead and just divide by negative 1/3, divide by negative 1/3. So, and then if you plug that in your calculator, 4 divided by negative 1/3, just like it is, you should get negative 12. Also, you can see this right here, this whole multiplication operation, as negative q over 3. Okay, it's the same thing, it's just lacking that imaginary 1 there. Okay, so if you were going to solve that, then you would multiply by negative 3 by negative 3 and still get negative 12. So two different ways to do it, basically the same. If this makes you feel better because you know that that's multiplication, so you know you're going to divide, not a big deal. If this freaks you out by thinking about it being a division problem and you have to multiply it, go with this guy. But you should get the same answer regardless. Okay.